The quaint town of Coleraine, Northern Ireland, was shaken to its core in May 1991. This peaceful community, known for its close-knit relationships and serene environment, was about to be thrust into a whirlwind of scandal and tragedy that no one could have anticipated. Respected dentist Colin Howell and devoted Sunday school teacher Hazel Buchanan became embroiled in a scandalous affair. Colin, with his charming demeanor and professional success, was a pillar of the community. Hazel, on the other hand, was admired for her quiet dedication to her family and her unwavering faith. These seemingly ordinary individuals hid a dark secret, a love so consuming it would lead them down a path of unimaginable darkness. Their clandestine meetings were filled with whispered promises and stolen moments, each encounter deepening their bond and their desperation. Their passion became an obsession, and their desire to be together would have deadly consequences. What started as a forbidden romance quickly escalated into a dangerous liaison, one that neither could escape from without drastic actions. Colin Howell, a charming and charismatic dentist, was well regarded in the community. His patients trusted him implicitly, and his colleagues respected his professional acumen. But behind the facade of a successful dentist lay a man driven by an insatiable desire. Hazel Buchanan, a quiet and unassuming Sunday school teacher, was known for her devotion to her family and faith. Her life seemed picture-perfect, a model of piety and dedication. Yet, beneath her modest exterior, Hazel harbored a longing that would ultimately lead her astray. Their paths crossed at the local church, where their children attended Sunday school. It was here, amidst the hymns and prayers, that their fates became intertwined. The church, a place of worship and community, became the backdrop for their illicit romance. A spark ignited between them, a shared attraction that quickly spiraled into a passionate affair. Their stolen glances and secret meetings became the highlights of their lives, moments where they could escape the confines of their respective marriages. The weight of their secret love became unbearable. The constant deception and the fear of being discovered took a toll on both Colin and Hazel. Their once thrilling affair turned into a source of immense stress and anxiety. Bound by their marriages, they saw no way out but to take drastic measures. The thought of returning to their mundane lives without each other was unbearable. They began to contemplate the unthinkable, driven by a desire to be together at any cost. Their desire for a future together fueled a sinister plot, one that would leave two families shattered and a community reeling in shock. The once peaceful town of Coleraine would never be the same, its tranquility forever marred by the actions of two desperate lovers. The lovers hatched a plan to eliminate the obstacles standing in their way. They meticulously plotted every detail, believing that their love justified the means. But their actions would set off a chain of events that no one could have foreseen, leading to a tragic and inevitable conclusion. The couple's plan was as meticulous as it was cold-blooded. They spent countless hours going over every detail, ensuring that nothing was left to chance. Their conversations were held in hushed tones, always behind closed doors, away from prying eyes and curious ears. They knew that one slip-up could unravel everything. They chose to act on a night when their spouses would be none the wiser. The darkness provided the perfect cover for their sinister activities. The empty streets and silent houses gave them the confidence to proceed without fear of being discovered. They moved with a calculated precision, every step rehearsed and every action deliberate. On May 18, 1991, Colin Howell put his plan into action. The date had been chosen carefully, a day that would forever be etched in infamy. Colin's determination was palpable, his resolve unshakable. He knew that this was the moment he had been preparing for, the culmination of all his planning and scheming. He drugged his wife, Leslie, with sleeping pills, ensuring she would not resist. The pills were potent, enough to render her completely unconscious. He watched as she drifted off to sleep, her breathing becoming slow and steady. He felt a cold detachment, as if he were merely an observer in a macabre play. He then connected a hose to his car's exhaust pipe, feeding the deadly carbon monoxide fumes into their home. The gas was silent and invisible, a perfect weapon for his dark purpose. He made sure the hose was securely attached, double-checking everything to avoid any mistakes. The car's engine hummed softly, a stark contrast to the deadly poison it was producing. Leslie Howell, unsuspecting and vulnerable, succumbed to the deadly gas. She lay there, completely unaware of the danger that was slowly enveloping her. The carbon monoxide detector, had it been present, would have shown a dangerously high reading, but there was no such device to warn her, no alarm to wake her from her fatal slumber. Her life was tragically cut short, a victim of her husband's chilling betrayal. The room, once filled with her presence, now felt eerily empty. A photograph of her in happier times stood as a silent testament to the life that had been stolen. The sad music underscored the profound sense of loss and the cold reality of her untimely death. Colin Howell then placed his wife's lifeless body in his car. He wrapped her in a blanket, as if to shield her from the world one last time. The trunk closed with a finality that echoed the end of her life. He took a moment to compose himself, knowing that the next phase of his plan required just as much precision and cold calculation, and embarked on the next stage of his horrific plan. The night was his ally, the darkness a cloak for his nefarious deeds. He drove through the empty streets, his mind focused on the task ahead. Every turn of the wheel brought him closer to his next destination, his determination unwavering. He drove to the Buchanan residence, a place that would soon become the scene of another tragedy. The house stood silent and unassuming, unaware of the horror that was about to unfold. He pulled up to the driveway, his heart pounding with a mix of fear and anticipation, carrying Leslie's body into the house. The weight of her lifeless form was a grim reminder of the deed he had committed. He moved quickly, knowing that time was of the essence. The front door opened with a creak, and he stepped inside, ready to complete the final act of his dark plan. At the Buchanan home, Colin Howell met with Hazel. They staged the scene to look like a tragic suicide pact. Trevor Buchanan, Hazel's husband, lay lifeless, overcome by the same deadly carbon monoxide poisoning. The lovers positioned the bodies to support their fabricated narrative of a desperate act by two heartbroken souls. The police investigation seemed straightforward. The evidence pointed to a tragic suicide pact. Colin Howell and Hazel Buchanan played their roles flawlessly, feigning grief and shock to the unsuspecting authorities. They painted a picture of two couples driven to despair, their love a forbidden tragedy. Despite the seemingly airtight case, whispers and rumors began to circulate. Some found it hard to believe that Leslie and Trevor would take their own lives. However, these doubts were mostly silenced by the convincing performances of Howell and Buchanan. They maintained their innocence, their secret buried deep beneath a facade of grief and sorrow. Years passed, and the tragedy faded into memory for most. Colin Howell and Hazel Buchanan moved on with their lives, their dark secrets seemingly buried forever. They continued to live in the community, their children growing up in the shadow of their parents' heinous act. Section 5. The Weight of Guilt. Years later, Colin Howell's carefully constructed facade began to crumble. The guilt of his actions gnawed at his conscience. Haunted by the past, he sought solace in religion, becoming deeply involved in his church. However, the solace he sought eluded him, his past sins casting a long shadow. In 2009, almost 2 decades after the murders, Colin Howell reached a breaking point. Overcome by guilt and the weight of his deception, he confessed to his second wife and church elders. His confession sent shockwaves through the community, shattering the illusion he had so carefully crafted. Section 6. Justice, at last. Howell's confession led to the reopening of the case. The police were now faced with the horrifying truth of the double murder. Hazel Buchanan, confronted with her former lover's confession, also admitted her role in the crime. The truth, hidden for so long, was finally revealed, exposing the depths of their deceit. In 2011, both Colin Howell and Hazel Buchanan stood trial for the murders of Leslie Howell and Trevor Buchanan. The evidence against them was overwhelming, their carefully constructed lies unraveling in the face of the truth. The court heard chilling details of the murders, the cold and calculated nature of their actions. Section 7. The Ripple Effects of Deceit. The trial gripped the nation, the shocking details of the case unfolding in the courtroom. The families of the victims were forced to confront the horrifying reality that their loved ones had been murdered by those they trusted. The children of both couples grappled with the knowledge that their parents were not who they seemed to be. The community, once enamored by the seemingly perfect lives of Colin Howell and Hazel Buchanan, now recoiled in horror. The betrayal of trust cut deep, leaving many questioning how they had been so completely deceived. The idyllic image of Coleraine was forever tarnished by the shocking truth. Section 8. The Secret Comes to Light. The case of Colin Howell and Hazel Buchanan sent shockwaves far beyond the small town of Coleraine. This seemingly quiet and peaceful town was suddenly thrust into the spotlight as the dark and twisted tale of betrayal and murder unfolded. The residents, who once felt secure in their close-knit community, were left grappling with the horrifying reality that such evil could lurk among them. The shocking nature of the crime, the long years of deception, and the eventual confession captivated the public's imagination. People were glued to their screens and newspapers, eager to learn every detail of the case. The sheer audacity of the crime, coupled with the fact that it remained hidden for so long, made it a story that was hard to ignore. The public's fascination was fueled by the intricate web of lies and deceit that Colin and Hazel had spun over the years. The story became the subject of intense media scrutiny, books were written, and documentaries were filmed. Journalists and authors delved deep into the case, uncovering new details and presenting them to an eager audience. The press conferences were packed with reporters, all vying for the latest scoop. True crime enthusiasts found themselves with a wealth of material to consume, as the story of Colin and Hazel's crimes was dissected from every possible angle. In 2016, ITV aired a 4-part miniseries titled The Secret, starring James Nesbitt as Colin Howell. The series brought the chilling story to life, with Nesbitt delivering a haunting portrayal of the manipulative and calculating Colin. The production team spared no effort in recreating the events, ensuring that viewers were drawn into the dark and disturbing world of the crime. The series delved into the complexities of the case, exploring the motivations behind the murders and the devastating impact on those involved. It shed light on the psychological manipulation and emotional turmoil that Colin and Hazel inflicted on their victims and those around them. The series also highlighted the painstaking efforts of the investigators who worked tirelessly to bring the truth to light. The Secret brought the story to a wider audience, sparking debate and discussion about the case's many facets. Viewers were left questioning how such a heinous crime could go unnoticed for so long, and what drove Colin and Hazel to commit such acts. The series not only entertained but also provoked thought and conversation, ensuring that the story of Colin Howell and Hazel Buchanan would not be forgotten anytime soon.